The earth was peaceful. People worked, laughed, and dreamed under the bright blue sky. Children played in the parks. Scientists built rockets to reach the stars. The world was not perfect, but it was full of hope. No one knew that everything would change in a single moment, a moment that would burn itself into history forever. It started with a strange signal from the moon. Astronomers saw strange lights flashing near the lunar surface. At first, they thought it was just a meteor shower or maybe a new discovery. Excitement filled the news. People stayed up late, watching the sky. Then the moon exploded. Without warning, the great silver moon shattered into millions of pieces. The night sky turned red. A deep, terrible rumble filled the Earth's atmosphere. Tidal waves rose from the oceans, taller than mountains. The ground shook so hard that entire cities collapsed. In one night, billions died. The survivors watched helplessly as the pieces of the moon rained down on Earth. Fires spread across forests. The ocean swallowed towns and islands. The sky stayed dark for days as smoke and dust blocked the sun. No one knew who had done it. No warning had come. No face had claimed the attack. Only one thing was clear. This was not a natural disaster. Someone had made it happen. The governments of Earth tried to speak to each other, but most communication was lost. Satellites were gone. Power grids failed. The leaders who remained met in secret underground bunkers. Their message was short and clear. This was an act of war. But who had attacked Earth? Why destroy the moon? The scientists who studied the signals found a horrifying answer. The energy used to shatter the moon was not from Earth. It was alien. Humanity was not alone in the universe. And worse, the other side had already decided to kill them. The enemy had fired first. They had not sent diplomats. They had not asked for peace. They had attacked the heart of Earth without mercy. Many humans fell into despair. They cried for the loved ones they lost. They buried their dead under gray skies. Some believed humanity was finished. But others, the stubborn ones, the angry ones, stood up. They picked up the broken pieces of their world and said, "We will fight back." In the dark corners of ruined cities, in the shattered remains of nations, small groups of survivors began to gather. Scientists, soldiers, builders, dreamers. They shared one goal: revenge. This was not just about survival. It was about justice. It was about making sure no one, ever again, would dare to harm Earth. Deep under the ground, in secret labs and hidden bunkers, humanity began to change. Old enemies shook hands. Old rivalries were forgotten. There was no longer us and them. There was only humanity. They called their plan Project Reckoning. It was not a plan for defense. It was not a plan to hide. It was a plan to strike back, harder, faster, and with greater fury than anything the galaxy had ever seen. While the rest of the universe believed Earth was dying, humanity was quietly preparing. While the enemies celebrated, humans sharpened their swords in silence. In the ashes of their broken world, a new kind of human was being born. Stronger, smarter, more dangerous. And when they were ready, the galaxy would feel their rage. The story of Earth was not over. It had just begun. The enemy thought they had destroyed humanity by taking away the moon. But in truth, they had only given humanity something it had never had before, a reason to fight without mercy. As the last pieces of the broken moon burned in the night sky, a single message was sent out from Earth's hidden command. You made one unforgivable mistake. Now we will make you remember it for all eternity. The galaxy was silent. The stars watched, and humanity, scared but unbroken, took its first step toward reckoning. The Earth was broken. Skies were gray. Oceans had swallowed whole cities. Fires burned across continents. But humanity was still alive. The enemy thought they had crushed human spirit. They thought fear would silence Earth forever. They were wrong. In the deep ruins, under the cracked ground, Humans began to rebuild, not homes, but weapons. The survivors gathered in secret. Old governments were gone. New leaders rose, not through elections, but through strength and vision. They wore no fancy suits, no golden crowns. They wore scars, dust, and anger. They spoke with clear voices. We will not beg for mercy. We will prepare for war. The name of their mission was whispered at first, then shouted. Project Reckoning. The plan was simple. Strike back. Strike hard. Make sure the enemy never hurt Earth again. Scientists who once built bridges now built weapons. Farmers who once grew food now grew armies. Children learned not about history and art, but about stars and battles. But humanity knew one thing. They could not fight the enemy in the old ways. Their ships were too weak. Their weapons were too slow. Their armies were too few. They needed something different, something the galaxy had never seen before. And so, in the hidden bunkers of broken cities, humans created a new kind of weapon, a ghost in the stars. Small ships, fast and invisible. Ships that could fly through enemy sensors without a whisper. Ships armed with weapons that could destroy entire fleets before the enemy even knew they were there. The humans did not build armies to stand tall. They built hunters to strike from the shadows. Meanwhile, the galaxy watched Earth from a distance. They saw smoke rising from the blue planet. They saw no new ships. They heard no new messages. And so, they believed what they wanted to believe. Earth is dead. They laughed in their great halls. They toasted to their easy victory. They promised to divide Earth's resources among themselves. But they did not see the ships hidden underground. They did not hear the silent drills, the quiet training, the whispered codes. They did not understand that true strength does not shout. It waits. It grows. It strikes when the enemy feels safest. In the cold darkness of space, humanity's first new ships floated silently, black against black. They had no names, no bright colors, no heroes, only missions. Each ship carried a simple command: punish the unforgivable. The human soldiers were different now, too. They were not dressed in shiny armor. They wore simple black suits, made for speed and silence. They did not sing songs of glory. They did not hope for medals. They carried one thing in their hearts: memory. Memory of the moon breaking apart. Memory of the screams of their families. Memory of the day the stars seemed to fall. The first wave of human ships left Earth without fanfare. No crowds waved goodbye. No leaders gave speeches. Only the silent promise: we are coming. In the enemy's grand cities, in their glowing palaces, life continued as normal. They celebrated their power. They joked about how easily Earth fell. They planned to erase all human history from the galaxy. And then, the attacks began. A supply station vanished without a signal. A mining colony exploded into dust. A military outpost found all its ships dead in the sky, without a single shot fired. The enemy leaders were confused. Who could do this? Pirates? Traitors? Surely not the weak, broken humans. But the humans left behind small, clear messages at each attack site. 3 words, burned into metal. For the moon. Panic spread like fire across the enemy worlds. For the first time, they realized they had made a mistake that would cost them everything. Earth had not died. Earth had sharpened itself into a blade. The survivors who rose from the ashes were not the same as the humans they thought they had destroyed. They were ghosts. They were hunters. They were justice. And they were only just beginning. As Earth's hidden commanders watched from their underground bunkers, they smiled grimly. The enemy had no idea what was coming. Humanity's awakening was not loud. It was not bright. It was silent, like a knife sliding between ribs. It was cold, like the darkness between stars. It was unstoppable. And soon, the galaxy would know the true meaning of fear. The enemy fleets sailed proudly across the stars. They had crushed many worlds before. They believed Earth would be just another forgotten planet, another trophy. They were wrong. The humans had not sent warnings. They had not sent diplomats. They had sent hunters. The first strike happened in Sector 9 Gamma. A massive enemy supply station floated quietly near a red dwarf star. Thousands of enemy workers moved through its halls. War supplies, weapons, fuel, armor were loaded daily onto battleships. They believed they were safe. After all, Earth was broken, wasn't it? At exactly 2:17 Galactic Standard Time, the sky around the station changed. Small black dots appeared, too small to be normal ships. Sensors could not detect them. Radars showed only silence. Then, in a single breath, the supply station exploded into 1,000 burning pieces. No warnings, no alarms, no chance to fight back. The enemy ships orbiting nearby rushed toward the explosion. They scanned for attackers. Nothing. Only wreckage. Only death. And then, floating through the debris, they saw something strange. A piece of black metal, still glowing hot. On it were 3 words, burned deep into the surface. For the moon. Panic spread like poison. Who had done this? How had they done this? No one had even seen the attackers. In their council halls, the enemy leaders shouted at each other. Some claimed it was a rogue empire. Others blamed secret rebels. No one dared speak the truth out loud. The humans have returned. But in their hearts, they knew. And worse, they realized that humans had changed. They were no longer the slow, weak beings the galaxy remembered. They had become something else. Something terrifying. The second attack came 2 days later. An enemy mining colony on asteroid belt Z57. The colony was rich with resources, critical for building more warships. It was erased in under 4 minutes. The human ships moved like shadows, fast, silent, deadly. They hacked enemy defenses. They shut down energy shields. They destroyed oxygen systems. Thousands of enemy workers gasped for air as their stations failed. No human foot even touched the ground. It was over before it began. And again, floating among the ruins, was the same message. For the moon. The galaxy began to tremble. The enemy empire, once strong and confident, now lived in fear. Convoys changed routes daily. Ships traveled in large groups, hoping to be safe. Fortresses were built around important planets. But it didn't matter. The humans were always faster, always one step ahead. The enemy's generals tried to understand. How could a dying planet strike so hard? They didn't know that Earth's survivors had spent years perfecting a new kind of warfare. Not with massive armies, not with giant battleships, but with speed, with invisibility, with unstoppable fury. The humans did not fight for conquest. They fought for memory. They fought for justice. Each attack was a reminder. Each explosion a message. You shattered our moon. Now we shatter your worlds. Meanwhile, on Earth, hidden under layers of burned cities, the human commanders watched the reports. They marked enemy victories with black stones. They marked human victories with small flames. Day by day, the map of the enemy empire turned from bright to dark. Victory by victory. Strike by strike. Revenge was being written in fire. And the humans were not finished. Far from it. New weapons were being tested. New ghost ships were being built. New soldiers, trained not to seek medals, but to deliver judgment, prepared for the next phase. Earth had learned a terrible lesson. Mercy was a weakness. The galaxy would not see humanity begging for peace. It would see humanity rising from the ashes. Unstoppable, unbreakable. The enemy had drawn first blood. But now it was humanity's turn. And they would not stop until the stars themselves remembered the day they woke the sleeping giants of Earth. The galaxy was no longer calm. Fear spread like wildfire. For centuries, the alien empires ruled the stars with pride. They built great cities, shining with light and power. They laughed at Earth, calling it weak and broken. They said humans were nothing but dust on an old world. But now, those words were ashes. The enemy fleets stayed close to their home planets. They built massive walls in space, shields so strong no one could enter. They armed every moon and asteroid with guns and missiles. They watched the stars nervously, waiting for the next strike. Rumors spread among their people. Whispers of ghost ships, silent ships that vanished before they were seen. Tales of shadows moving like smoke between enemy patrols. No one knew where the humans would strike next. The enemy leaders grew angry and scared. Some wanted to fight harder. Others begged for peace. But no one trusted anyone anymore. Secret meetings were held in dark rooms. Plans were made to trap the humans. False messages were sent to lure the hunters into traps. But the humans did not fall for these tricks. They were too smart, too patient. The people of Earth had learned one thing well. To survive, you must be clever. To win, you must be fearless. The human warriors flew their black ships through the void. No lights, no noise, just sudden death. One by one, the enemy supply lines stopped. No more weapons reached their armies. No more fuel filled their ships. Their great fleets began to slow down. The enemy's pride turned to fear. They no longer smiled when speaking of Earth. Instead, they whispered warnings. The humans are coming. But Earth did not attack planets without reason. They chose their battles carefully. They struck where it hurt the most, where the enemy was weak and careless. This made the attacks even more terrifying. No one knew when or where the next strike would come. No one was safe. On one distant world, a council member said, "We must stop fearing. We must fight back." But his words were lost in a sea of panic. Meanwhile, on Earth, the people waited in silence. They trained harder every day. They built better ships and smarter weapons. And they remembered. They remembered the day their moon was shattered, the screams of loved ones lost, the darkness that covered their home. That pain was now their power, their fire. The galaxy was changing, and Earth was the flame burning bright at its center. The enemy would soon learn that fear was only the beginning, because when fear spreads like fire, it burns everything in its path. Earth was no longer the weak planet the galaxy had forgotten. It was a force, a storm rising from the ashes. But humans knew they needed more than fast ships and silent strikes. They needed a weapon no enemy could stop. Scientists worked day and night in hidden labs. They built machines that could think faster than any mind. They created armor stronger than the hardest metal. They invented energy weapons that could cut through the toughest shields. But the greatest weapon was not a machine. It was something else, something inside every human. It was their will, their heart, their unbreakable spirit. The enemy had power and technology, but humans had something no one else did: hope. Hope that no matter how dark the night, the sun would rise again. This hope gave them strength. It gave them courage. It gave them a reason to fight when everything seemed lost. The human soldiers trained harder than ever. They pushed their bodies and minds to limits no one thought possible. They learned to move like shadows, strike like lightning, and disappear like ghosts. New pilots flew new ships, faster and smarter than before. They could dodge enemy fire like dancers. They could find enemy weaknesses like hunters tracking prey. But most important of all, humans learned to fight as one. No one fought alone. Every soldier, every ship, every mind worked together. They became a single force, unstoppable. The commanders called this power the human spirit. The enemy tried everything to break it. They sent spies to steal secrets. They spread lies to create fear. They offered peace to divide the humans. But it did not work. The humans saw through the lies. They fought the spies. They stood together, stronger than ever. And then The humans revealed their greatest weapon. It was a ship. Not the biggest or most armed, but the fastest, the smartest, the most advanced. They called it the Dawnbreaker. The Dawnbreaker could move faster than any ship before it. It could hide in plain sight. Its weapons were silent but deadly. It carried a new kind of energy that could destroy enemy ships from far away. The first mission of the Dawnbreaker was a secret. Only a few knew its power. Only a few knew its pilot, a young woman named Mira. Mira was quiet but fierce. She had lost her family on the day the moon exploded. She trained all her life to fly this ship. She carried the weight of Earth's pain and hope in her heart. When the Dawnbreaker launched, the galaxy held its breath. Mira flew through enemy space like a shadow. She struck a powerful enemy fortress hidden behind a gas giant. The fortress was thought to be impossible to destroy. But Mira did it. The fortress exploded silently, leaving no chance for warning. The enemy was stunned. They did not know how the Dawnbreaker moved so fast. They did not know how one small ship could destroy so much. And the message left behind was clear. This is just the beginning. The humans smiled quietly in their hidden bunkers. They knew the fight was far from over. But they had found their greatest weapon, not just a ship or a gun, but the courage to fight for their home. The galaxy watched in fear. Humanity had awakened, and the stars would never be the same again. The galaxy was changing. The enemy no longer laughed. They no longer thought Earth was weak. Instead, they feared. Every shadow, every silence, every sudden explosion reminded them of one thing. Humanity was alive, and it was coming for them. The Dawnbreaker's success inspired hope across Earth. New ships were built faster. New pilots trained harder. The silent hunters of humanity grew in number. The enemy tried to fight back. They launched huge fleets to crush human forces. They built walls of fire and metal around their worlds. But it was too late. Humanity had learned to fight smarter. They used speed, surprise, and teamwork. They struck where the enemy was weakest. They never fought alone. In one great battle near the star Auron 5, human ships faced a powerful enemy fleet. The enemy had numbers. They had heavy weapons, but humans had the human spirit. The fight was long and hard. Lasers cut through space. Ships exploded in fireballs, but humans stayed strong. At the battle's darkest moment, Mira and the Dawnbreaker led a daring strike. They slipped past enemy defenses and destroyed the enemy's command ship. Without their leader, the enemy fleet scattered. Victory belonged to humanity. News of the battle spread across the galaxy. Planets whispered of the unstoppable human force. Fear turned into respect. But humanity did not celebrate. They knew the war was far from over. They remembered the moon. They remembered the Unforgivable act. And they promised. They would not stop until justice was done. The tide was turning. The galaxy was waking up to a new power. A power born from pain, loss, and hope. Humanity's greatest weapon was not their ships or guns. It was their spirit. And that spirit burned brighter every day. The stars themselves seemed to shine differently now. Because humanity was no longer weak. They were a force to be reckoned with. The reckoning had begun. The galaxy held its breath. The final battle was near. For years, humans had fought silently. For years, the enemy had feared the rising storm. Now, everything would end. The humans gathered their fleets. The Dawnbreaker led the way. Pilots, soldiers, scientists, all ready to fight for their home. The enemy sent their largest armada to destroy Earth once and for all. They believed victory was certain. But humans were ready. Not just with ships and weapons. With courage. With hope. The battle began near the shattered moon's remains. Stars lit up with fire and light. Ships clashed like thunder in the night. Explosions shook the darkness. Screams echoed through space. But humans never gave up. Mira and the Dawnbreaker fought through the enemy lines. They targeted the enemy's command ship, the heart of their power. The enemy fought fiercely. They sent waves of fighters to stop Mira. They launched missiles and energy blasts. But Mira moved like a shadow, fast and silent. She dodged every attack. She carried the weight of Earth's pain and its hope. With one final strike, the Dawnbreaker's weapon pierced the enemy command ship. The great ship exploded in a brilliant fireball. Without their leader, the enemy fleet lost control. Ships fled in all directions. The humans had won. The galaxy watched in awe. The weak planet had defeated the greatest power. Humans had risen from dust to conquer stars. But the victory was not just in battle. It was in the spirit of humanity, in their courage to never give up, in their hope to rebuild and protect. The surviving enemy leaders surrendered. They promised to respect Earth and its people, to never attack again. Earth was safe, for now. But humans knew peace was fragile. They would remain watchful, guardians of their home. The unforgivable act against humanity had sparked a reckoning that changed the galaxy forever. The stars now shone brighter, because humanity was no longer weak. They were strong. They were united. They were ready. And the galaxy would never forget the day the humans stood up and changed everything.